Well, we're back with the last of the 150cc Mario Kart Double Dash itemless cups. And we know what it is. It's the Special Cup. Now, the last one I put up was the Special Cup 100cc run. And I'll be honest, it didn't go to plan. I ended up winning by, I think it was 2 to 4 points at most. I'm aiming for something a little more substantial today. But I'll admit, at this point in time, as the game was continuing to get more familiar, more just average, everyday, mess around play for the sake of playing, it got to a point where myself and my co-partner in this particular challenge, Bobbledead, really started to, we started to mess around a lot. And I think you'll notice a lot of Bobbledead kicking, punching, etc. as Monsieur Turtle, simply because at this point in time, there's not a whole heck of a lot that this particular individual can do. But the beautiful part about having a co-pilot in this is it gives the option of a attack. Something that in a single player run wouldn't really do much. Effectively, I forego the ability to use a mini turbo in exchange for having the ability to punch or kick. That's effectively what it boils down to. And truthfully, I think that it is a good option for me, just on the fact that while I am a good Mario Kart player, I am not fantastic. And that's okay. I have no real concern with that. Secondly, having a partner makes a longer running challenge like this, that is, I guess, what is it, 16, 20 cups? A little more forgiving, so to speak. A lot more reasonable to do in any length of time, because you'll have fun, you'll laugh, you have a grand old time while you're doing it. And that's, I think, what I love the most about this particular run, this particular challenge, is it was something that I could never, well, it was feasible to do alone, assuming I learned how to use the bumpers with my feet, but not something that I really had the drive to learn how to use. But that's one race down, 3 to go. Coming up next, we have Dino Jungle. And Dino Jungle is one of those tracks that I personally, as a kid, I didn't enjoy. I found it a little too simplistic, effectively a figure-8 style circuit with a couple small difficulties thrown in, like potentially getting stomped by a giant dinosaur or falling off a bridge. But growing up and seeing this track again, I can appreciate it a little bit more. And one of the parts that I actually appreciate the most about this track are the bridges themselves. See, in an early game figure-8 circuit, the worst you're going to get is if you go off track, you're going to end up hitting some grass and slowing down. This adds a lot more pizzazz to it. A lot more emphasis on the player knowing the track properly, but also being able to avoid certain obstacles more easily. And, truth be told, also is set up in such a way that you can punish your opponent a lot more just on the basis of timing. If, for example, Mario and Bowser were beside me, Monsieur Turtle could punch and or kick them off the bridge, effectively putting them from 2nd to 5th. This is the, I suppose, the core of this particular track's assessment and what makes it good. But it's also one of those tracks that anything goes haywire and you're gonna notice. But be that as it may, I suppose there is a little bit of a side challenge to this. Okay, who put the giant spiked shell there? You already know who, I'm just being a brat. Um, Mario Kart tracks are typically divided down two lines. There are tracks that are runners, in which the player is trying to get as far ahead as possible and keep their lead. And there are baggers, tracks that are more about item usage and getting the right thing at the right time. This particular run, while it is admittedly somewhat simplistic, I mean, I'm only facing off against computers, um, does lend itself to more potential problems provided that I'm not planning ahead, so to speak. And this comes in the form of not being able to use bagger type tracks to the fullest extent I could otherwise use it. It's something small and not necessarily the most notable, but it is something that does come up a few times throughout the game. Tracks like Baby Park, for example, being very much a item thrower's haven, in Double Dash is amazing. But throw it in Mario Kart 8 and suddenly there's people holding back specifically to get that one special item to absolutely demolish the entire track. This is a common circumstance that comes about from simply people playing and playing in an online game ends up meaning that the metas of each track actually are a lot more important than in this one-off I'm just messing around against computers kind of game. It's something that I personally would have liked to see more of a... Okay, really, Turtle? I would really have liked to see more in that regard, but it's not something that I really had the means of showcasing, which, calling a spade, I suppose, is reasonable. Anywho, we're in Bowser's Castle. And Bowser's Castle has always been one of those tracks that I've loved since day one. But it's one of those tracks that I think benefits from its atmosphere a lot more than some do. It's dark, it's brooding, yeah, it's meant to be like an endgame level, but it also is one of those courses that really showcases that players have a lot more freedom of expression in certain areas. There are a couple of really good points to throw your bananas down because who's going to catch a banana in the middle of this hairpin turn? You have areas where players effectively chokehold the entire track using items of any variety. You have areas where the best plan is often the most ridiculous in the form of taking shortcuts or simply just hoping for the best with the thwomps. Every single course has some variety to it in some way, but this one always felt unique in that every single player, every single driver would have a slightly different approach to the track, as it were. An example, me going through the flame bar instead of around it. Some players will go around it because that's the best option for them. I, myself, always go through it because what's the worst that can happen? I get burned a little bit, which, let's be clear, I do get burned often, but risk versus reward, that's, I think, the best case scenario. Anywho, with 3 tracks down, 30 points to our name. That means that at this exact second in time, provided I do not get last place, or 7th, or I am effectively guaranteed a win, which I'm pretty excited about. But let's get to this. The final track, Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road has always been one of those courses that it didn't matter how skilled I was or how much I played it. It always ends up being a fairly challenging course. And I think part of that is simply due to the fact that um, this particular Rainbow Road has a lot more in the terms of individually challenging level design. You have hairpin turns while sheer cliffs. You have, oh wow, 8th place off the bat here. Looks like I got some catching up to do. But hairpin turns that lead you off sheer cliffs. The twisty, angled end here, well, sometimes makes it one of the fastest and more freeform areas of the track. Also has a tendency at times to make it one of the most challenging portions simply due to the fact that you can easily overshoot your goals. And I don't mean to say it as a negative. I don't believe it is negative at all. As the 16th and final course in Mario Kart Double Dash, the last one that any player is likely to play, this track is supposed to be the penultimate challenge, the final push to showcase that you as the player are as good as you say you are. And while some of them, like Mario Kart 64, have an exceptionally long Rainbow Road track that's very windy and has a lot of smaller, I suppose, challenges or risks associated with it, this one simply has the fact that you're never going to end up having 2 laps exactly the same. And I do have to say, that is one of the things that I love about this track. It's meant to be difficult, but it's also meant to be a little bit of a showstopper. You felt that. Oh wow, these guys are really struggling today. Cap that off with it being a generally downhill slalom straight from start to finish, and you have the recipe for a very uniquely challenging and unique course, especially in Double Dash, which only has one other downhill style course, being DK Mountain. But that's all my perspective on it. I'd love to hear what you think. How would you put each of the courses in terms of difficulty? And where would you put each of the courses in terms of just having fun, messing around? I'd love to hear it. Aw man, off the world again. You know, they must have some really high insurance rates down in Mushroom City, because like I've seen like 12 vehicles fall off this Rainbow Road, and like I don't imagine that those buildings can hold up to a car falling on them very easily. I mean, maybe they could. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something I'm noting. Anywho, the turtle has brought all of the nieces and nephews with, so I suppose it's time to let them have their fun. Oh, did they fall off? Luigi and DK fell off the course, falling to 4th place. Which means, with 2nd place in hand, that puts us with a grand total of 38 points. 8 points above 2nd place, and 12 points above 4th. Meaning that today's run is mission complete. If you like what you see, drop a like down below, leave a subscribe, and maybe a comment on how you think, or whether you think, the mirror mode and all cup tours are going to be feasible. Until next time, I hope you all are good to one another, and I hope you all have a good one. Until next time.